All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm very excited today. We have some special guests, people that I've been collaborating with for quite a while, so I'm really excited to have them share what they've been working on. So this is the Tufts Center for Engineering, Education, and Outreach webinar series. My name is Alyssa Milta. I'm Director of Outreach at the center. And I'm really just going to turn it over. I've been working with Stacy and Jenny in different projects over the last few years, focusing on neurodiverse learners. And so I invited them to talk about what they've been doing because I think it's something people should hear about. So I'm just going to turn it over because I know you two are going to introduce yourselves.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Alyssa. Hopefully, you all are able to see the slides there. Once again, welcome. Thank you for joining us for this webinar, which is entitled Engineering Belongs to Everyone, Designing E4USA for Neurodiverse Learners. We want to thank you, Tufts University Center for Engineering Education and Outreach, for holding these webinar series. And thank you for inviting us for this particular session here. I want to share briefly our agenda. We're going to fill this hour with you all, and we're really excited to do so. We some welcome and introductions, an overview of E4USA, and then all of you get to engage in one of our hands-on activities, which is called the Shoe Sole Design Activity. And then think about inclusive strategies to support neurodiverse learners in that particular activity. We'll have a Q&A and wrap up to share some additional information. So in terms of introductions, Stacy, I'll let you go first.
Sure. Thank you, Jenny. Hello, everybody. Hi, my name is Stacy Klein-Gardner, and I am the Executive Director of Engineering for us all. I am a biomedical engineer by training and have over 20 years of high school classroom experience as well as teaching at Vanderbilt University. Let me pass the baton to Jenny again.
Thanks, Stacy. So my name is Dr. Jenny Kouo. I'm the Director of Professional Learning at e4usa, and I am very fortunate to be able to work with our e4usa educators all year round. My background is as a special educator, working with students with autism and a variety of disabilities. And so really glad to be able to meld these two really important topics here around engineering and opening access for neurodiverse students. So let's start with a little bit of an opening and intro to E4USA. Stacy, go ahead.
Absolutely. So I'm excited just to share a little bit about our program first, in case you're not familiar with it, though I see a few people on the attendee list who are. And we'll move from there into doing the activity. So, kind of kicking things off, Engineering for Us All is based on research that started a long time ago, back in 2002. A team of us asked the question of why is there no AP in engineering? And that led to a lot of conversations and a lot of work that you're going to hear about today. But throughout that whole time, we've held steady to the mission around the nationwide expansion of student and teacher access to high quality engineering curriculum and teacher professional development, with a true goal around making sure that the for us all part of our name really rings true and makes it where everyone, including those who are underrepresented in the field, feel welcomed into the space and have a seat at the table. We began with some National Science Foundation funding back in 2017. NSF approached us and to our team and really wanted us to write the proposal around bringing to bear high school engineering courses that are based in research, and then hopefully would become evidence backed. We're grateful for that support. Our PI was at University of Maryland and a number of us at different universities. And through that work, we always said, how are we going to end this? We didn't want to just end the grant and stop. We needed a way to not only sustain our work, but to grow it. And through our original university-based grant, we launched a nonprofit company in 2022. We started doing some work under that in 23, and in 24, a number of us quit most of our jobs and went to work for Engineering for Us All, the nonprofit company. And so that's where I become your executive director, and Jenny comes on as halftime there. So Jenny, if you'll advance to the next slide, you can see a little bit more of our new funding that we have in the nonprofit organization from the National Science Foundation, but a number of other foundations, governmental organizations such as the Maryland State Department of Education, and companies such as MathWorks. And that leads us to where we are now. So next slide, please, Jenny. Over the years, we have trained a lot of teachers at over 100 different schools and universities in 25 US states and territories, as well as Ghana. And now we're actually still gathering our data for this year, but we can even already say we're over 12,000 high school and university students have been trained or taken part in at least one e4usa course, which is really exciting. I want to share a little bit with you about our courses. We have 4 different courses. 3 of those together can make up a CTE program of study, and one of those is typically found more in a college preparation track in the high schools. Though one of the CTE courses could probably land in both of those. So let me tell you just a little bit more about those. Our first course that I'll mention is E4USA plus Making. It's an introductory course. It's meant for 9th or 10th graders, really any level, but high school students. And it allows students to develop an engineering identity and to do their first real engineering design projects, including solving an authentic problem at their high school. Optionally, students can learn a CAD and maybe sit for a CAD industry recognized credential. We say we're CAD agnostic. We prefer Onshape, but schools can use whichever CAD program they need or want to use. Our second course in the sequence, and then again, this is one that could actually fall into the college prep category as well, is E4USA Plus Programming. We've been grateful to receive funding from MathWorks. And what we did was we took the AP Computer Science Principles framework and we rewrote it and we made it to solve engineering problems so that you're not ever just coding for the sake of coding, but you're coding to solve an authentic human need and want from a community partner. So we've really enjoyed overlaying that, and it allows students to sit for an AP Computer Science Principles exam and or sit for a MATLAB industry recognized credential. Our third class in this sequence is our E4USA Plus Design class. It's really a capstone type class. And in this course, our students do 2 community-based problems where they have an authentic client from the community and they're solving and doing real hands-on engineering design work for those clients. So again, those 3 courses make up our CTE pathway. Our other option is our E4USA Legacy class. And it really overlaps. It's kind of an accelerated combined version of E4USA Plus Making and E4USA Plus Design. And in this course, our students are doing a school-based engineering problem, and then they too are solving an community-based problem as part of their course. And then I'll mention our threads. I love our threads. They permeate all of our courses. They really, I think, convey what our values are as well and what the research has to say about what high school engineering courses should include. They start with our red thread, which is around connecting with engineering, helping students really develop their engineering identity, looking at engineering ethics as well. Our yellow thread is around engineering society and helps students understand what kind of problems engineers solve and how we interact with the greater society. Our third thread, the blue thread, is called engineering professional skills. I now hear that called durable skills a lot right now, which is a name I really like because these are skills that our students can take just to life in general. So they include things like teamwork, communication, and project management. And our fourth one, not surprisingly, is the engineering design process, which is the foundation to what a lot of us do through all of Tufts and other areas. We do have some content-based threads around CAD. Again, that's optional in our first course, and then around MATLAB programming as well. Just to give you an idea of the kinds of problems we solve, this is one of my favorites. It's out of College Park Academy, and here our students have taken on a class-wide project where they partnered with a young woman, a 9-year-old girl, who wanted to play lacrosse on her school's team. And she had the mobility part under control in that she had a wheelchair that she could move. But what she didn't have was a lacrosse stick that she could catch and fire that ball into the goal. So the class worked together to design a mechanism that allows her to participate fully as a lacrosse player on her school's team. Another couple examples are out of Plymouth Whitemarsh High School. Here, the high school students partnered with the lower school special education teacher. She needed a way to teach her students how to cross the street safely. So our students developed these remote controlled devices that you can see here that allow her to teach and work with her students in a safe way without before she takes them out to a real street to make sure that they understand how to view these traffic signals. And the one on the right is a favorite of mine because I was there for it. It is from the Nashville Zoo. The animal you see there is a caracal. And the Nashville zookeepers work really hard to make sure that our animals, while in captivity, don't exhibit what are called stereotypic or bad behaviors. And so our students designed a way to get the cat to hunt naturally. And I wish I had a video of it right here, but what happens is the cat's walking around not really paying attention, it seems, but then all of a sudden that cat leaps up in the air and grabs its treat out of what was kind of a zip line like device that our students had designed, and everyone squealed with delight. It was a lot of fun. So those are some great examples. The last thing I'll mention is we've been working on some assessments. We have, of course, formative assessments all the way through, but we're working on some end of year assessments that include things like the AP exam, the industry recognized credentials that I mentioned. But we're also working on our own end of course exam that we hope someday will become an AP engineering assessment as well. But we do it in two ways. We have our My Design portfolios where students document their authentic team-based work that they're doing to do real engineering design. And that becomes a part of an AP style score. And then we've developed a 2 hour long exam where students are kind of walked through the engineering design process. And that all comes together to make a single score. And we're really trying to build on some of the data around AP computer science principles where we learn that students are 3 times more likely to major in computer science if they've taken the AP computer science course and exam. Now let me pause there and turn the floor back over to Jenny, who will give you just a brief overview of our teacher professional learning.
Thank you, Stacy. Stacy. So the mission of E4USA really encompasses, of course, students, but also educators as well. And so we really, truly revere our E4USA educators. And we are very cognizant and very intentional about how we provide professional development to our E4USA educators, as well as opportunities throughout the year through professional learning, additional professional developments, and really work to build a community of practice to support them. And so, as you can see here, we have a number of different opportunities for teachers to engage with one another and also with the E4USA team. And a lot of that hinges upon our hub, our E4USA hub, which is an online platform where they're able to complete their professional development training as well as connect with one another. We have something called E4USA Connect, which is similar to like a Slack that allows them to organize different conversations, communicate with one another, to share out examples of student projects, other resources, as well as tap into that knowledge bank that is our community of practice. So they're able to ask those questions, especially for our new teachers. They're asking questions about pacing or how to support different needs of different students. We also have other supports that includes a coach and also fellow team members or fellow E4USA teachers. Our coaches are specifically trained to be our E4USA coaches. They are veteran expert E4USA teachers who can really provide a lot of guidance for both our new and our returning educators. Jumping around here, we also have an E4USA liaison. Each teacher is allowed to work with and is able to work with very closely with a university or industry liaison to support them as an educator, but also to engage that liaison with their students in the classroom as well. We have a number of other community partners, and of course, the E4USA team is always engaged in working with educators all year round. And then, as mentioned, we have additional professional developments like My Design 1, which where they're learning how to use that really, really powerful scoring rubric and our My Design learning platform. We also have a winter professional development, a great opportunity to check in midway through the academic year, as well as other social events like e4usa socials, both in the fall and the spring, as well as an end of year teacher celebration to really, once again, celebrate our educators because they do such important work.
And I'll jump back in and just mention we have a lot of college credit opportunities for our courses. We have them in actually more states that are on that map. I now take a look there. We're up to 30 colleges and universities that offer some sort of college credit for E4USA courses. We encourage you to check our website for the up-to-date map. Some of them are dual enrollment, a lot are credit, by inspection or transcripted credit, that kind of thing. So we're always looking to grow that and are excited that we do have some in the Northeast region. Maybe with that, we'll switch gears.
I'm going to interrupt for 1 second.
Okay, good.
Just, I want to let people know if they have any questions to put it in the Q&A, and I'll make sure it gets answered. If not immediately, then before the end of the webinar.
Thank you, Alyssa. We're excited to share one of our activities with you, and we're going to use this activity just kind of as an example. I'll note that it's lesson 1.6, and it's the first activity from there. So it's very early in our curriculum. It's something that we have usually our ninth graders doing or our younger students doing. And so I'm excited for you to actually do the activity yourself, at least an abbreviated version of it. And then we're going to use that as our foundation for a really rich conversation around working with neurodiverse students. So keep that in mind of why we're asking you to do this. So what we're going to ask you to do, next slide. Oh, Jenny, I think I stole your slide, didn't I?
You did, Stacy, but it's okay. I'll reiterate that as you're doing this activity with Stacy, the shoe sole design, just be thinking about pathways or on-ramps for neurodiverse students to access this activity successfully. So you might wish to think about a former student or students in your classroom if you're an educator. You may also wish to think about a specific need, such as, writing or communication or social emotional or behavioral need. And so think about how this lesson, this activity can really be adjusted in order to support our neurodiverse students. All right. All right. Turning back to you, Stacy.
All right. So when we begin this lesson with our students, it has a few parts. And the first part is around, so the whole thing is based on shoe soles and what sort of engineering goes into shoes in particular. We chose this because people wear shoes. People have a variety of kinds of shoes typically in their lives, or at least they're familiar with other kinds. So we start our lesson by having our student teams sketch a shoe sole and then label its functions. And I'll show you in just a second. We won't do that part, but I'll show you in just a second a photo of a sketch that students have made in the past. And then we ask our students, once they're kind of familiar with thinking about shoes and what the different parts are, what functions they might provide, then we move into designing a shoe sole for a purpose. And I'm going to ask you to do that in just a second. So when I do, it's going to be important that you don't duplicate an already existing design. So don't just go Google it. That's no fun. That's not putting your engineering thinking hat on. But if you find something that's kind of interesting, you could improve upon a design as engineers often do. We don't always just create from scratch. We often improve if you find something that already exists. So we're going to do that. We're also going to give you an option of taking it global. And if you pick the option of taking it global, I want you to think about what's the real problem you might need to solve besides just designing a shoe. So hold that thought for just a second. Next slide, please, Jenny. This is a photo of a couple different photos of shoes that were drawn for this activity. You can see it was done on an eraser, actually a table there. But you can see they did not only the shoe sole, but they also did the side of the shoe, the top of the shoe. So you can see where they've labeled like tennis grooves. They've labeled the sole. They've labeled that it was made of leather stuff, which I liked the very technical term there. And some of the tongue and air holes in the shoe, some other purposes. And if you look at the one on the right, they did a little bit more on the soul of it. They talked about the concentric circles. They talked about ridges having the opposite of the concentric circles to resist or restrict, rather, any motion that isn't from the ball of the foot. And they talk about grooves near the toe that allow for rapid change of direction, and a heel with ridges in various directions to allow for traction. So you can see a lot of different, I think I really like the one on the right because they went into not only what they're seeing and kind of describing it, showing the logo, that kind of thing, but really starting to think about how form becomes function as an engineer. So that would have been the first step you would have done, and it's going to lead into the next step. So next slide, please, Jenny. You get to pick. I hope you've got something you can sketch with nearby. And you get to choose one of these. You can decide that you're going to design a shoe for someone who's walking on a rut-filled clay road in Ghana. Or you can design a shoe that accommodates a student or an adult with an ankle-foot orthotic. So in both cases, I want you to think about what is the real problem? Where could you start from? Maybe you want to improve something. But we're going to ask you to, at minimum, sketch the shoe sole. But I think you probably will have more fun with this if you think about the whole shoe and what it might look like. So we're gonna pause here and take about 5 minutes or so, and let you do some sketching. Now, what will be helpful for us, other than for me to not talk the entire time, but would be helpful for us if you use the Q&A. Maybe you could let us know when you've had a chance to finish. Maybe you could first let us know, that would be good, if you're picking Ghana or orthotic. Maybe you could just type that in the Q&A box real quickly, claim yours, and then we can, and we'll let you get started. Does that sound like a good set of instructions, Alyssa, for using the Q&A?
Sorry. Yes.
Thank you. All right. Let us know what you're thinking. Got our first person for Ghana. Glad we now have one for orthotic. Excellent.
People don't have to worry about their art skills.
Oh gosh. Yes. I've done this activity and I'm severely lacking in that category. What I don't always get in my artistic skills, I can use words to describe what I meant for it to look like. So feel free to do that as well. Eric, glad you're grabbing Donna.
While they're doing that, I'm going to ask you two a question. You sort of touched on it just because you said you saw some of the pictures, some of the pictures that you took. But can you tell everyone a little bit while they're doing this, just really briefly, about just that you've been in the classroom? Tell us like maybe something that you saw while you were there that you thought was really exciting.
Absolutely. I'm also going to answer Jonathan's question in the chat box, the Q&A, because I think it's a really good one. Is it important to first study precedents, what designs have worked well in the past? I would say wholeheartedly yes. I think that, and I even think about my design portfolio, and one of our early elements is around studying what has worked well. What hasn't worked well is also really important on what the failures of a design have been in the past, and then to think about why you would do something. What are the pros and cons? Because like what work well in one situation might not work well. So what might work well in for a shoe here might not work well in Ghana because of for some reason. I don't want to give away too much yet, but and so yes, absolutely, that is something that engineers do. So thank you for asking that excellent question, Jonathan. This I love to try to go to class. I try to go once a week if I can to a local e4usa class, partly just because I miss high school students otherwise. And it reminds me of why I do the work that we do. But I love watching students connect with the real world. I think they like the project where they're doing something at their school, and it's fun to see your work in action. But for example, the school where I was this past Friday, we just launched projects with the Nashville Zoo again. So it's really fun to take a bunch of high schoolers back to the zoo because they all have been, I haven't been here in years. But to get back there and to see the way they engage with a zookeeper and the pride that the zookeeper has for the work they do, and to understand that there are real needs and that they're going to really contribute to society. I think it gives them such a great, rich impression of what engineers really do and what we're all about. So that's one of my favorite feelings of being with the high school students in class.
And then Eric had a comment. I don't think you've addressed this one.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yes,
About,
Eric has mentioned, and speak with people who require need ankle foot orthotics to find their needs. So Eric is absolutely hitting the nail on the head here of thinking about don't assume you know what is needed, but talk to the actual client, talk to stakeholders in here. So maybe you might talk to a child who has the need for it, but you might also talk to the parent because the parent might have, and they might call out something like, it's easy to get their shoes on quickly, whereas the child might not articulate that. So it's good to make sure you're really looking at the whole problem and not assuming you know something. Jonathan says, I mentioned this because the most common failure I see with students doing design projects is that they fail to research prior art. They think no one has designed this before. 100%. I literally got asked this in class the other day. Should I look? Should I Google this or go to Google Scholar or do some sort of research? It's
Mhm.
absolutely, there are things for you to learn about what has succeeded. And maybe it pushes you in a direction that you might not have thought of on your own to see what that is. So I agree again with you, Jonathan, and thank you for these great comments here. When you've had a chance to sketch this much, and I know it's probably hard if we're talking too much, when you've had a chance to sketch as much as you're ready to, maybe let us know that in the Q&A box as well.
I want to ask questions, but I also know it's hard for people to focus on the drawing.
I know
And
the quiet is hard too. Jenny and I were just messaging that we really want to see your drawings, and so you read our
there we
mind,
go. Yep.
Jonathan. And so I think what we're gonna do. You want to explain, Jenny?
Sure, let me try to do this and I might struggle with sharing out the link to the exact spot, but I am in a few moments, one of us is going to share a link to a Miro, which is essentially like a Jamboard or a infinite whiteboard. And so if you are able to take a picture of your sketch and upload it to that spot in the Miro, that would be wonderful to be able to see it. So give me one moment here to make a quick little adjustment. And then let's see, Lynn or Lisa, is there a good way to provide this link? Oh, and Lynn's,
The link just, yeah, I think it just went in.
okay. All right. And that's hopefully accessible to folks who are joining us at the webinar, but you'll see kind of a rectangle there and lots of folks joining, which is wonderful. So feel free to go ahead and include your sketch.
For those who are really new to Miro or challenged like I always am, do you have any advice on how best to get a sketch up there? Like, could they take a photo with their phone really fast, or what do you suggest for that?
Sure. Let me share my screen really fast here. And so if you do have a picture on your computer, for example, you can just drag and drop it there into this white space here in the Miro board. If you are engaging in your phone, you should also be able to do the same thing. You can kind of copy and paste into this area here to add in a picture.
So if you're like me, I see some of you looking down onto kind of the next part of our activity where you see
Yep.
our lesson.
Mhm.
If you grab with your right mouse, you can move around on the mirror board. And then maybe if you'll go up, now you'll see the white box that Jenny is talking about.
Exactly.
And Stacy, I think there was a question that you
Yeah, I
still
answered
started.
one.
I don't know if it didn't update for me. Can we consider that the shoe be sold as a single or mix and match option?
I said your choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let us know if you're trying to do it and struggling with it. Oh, I see one maybe coming.
Okay, sticky note. Okay.
Like I'm watching it with bated breath here.
Can you move a little bit closer to your computer? Maybe it's
Sure.
just me. There you go.
Oh, I see some words coming on here to describe the the shoe. I'm gonna guess that this person is working on a Ghanaian shoe. Oh, maybe not though. If we think about it, and maybe we want to use some text here to support, although I hope you'll feel free to post as well. If we think about it, a rut-filled clay shoe in Ghana, maybe use the Q&A. What would be some characteristics of the shoe that would be needed? Even if you didn't work on the Ghanaian shoe, maybe you can put some in there. Yep. Zoom in a little. Oh, this person's got some great ideas. The sneaker sole should be grippy for the landform, so we're addressing the ruts, and the sneaker should have a boot. The sneakers should be made of light materials to match the climate of Ghana, which is true. It's often rather warm and they have a rainy season as well. Actually, I have two. And then, question, what are the local resources to produce the shoe locally? I love that this person has thought about what materials are available. It's not going to be the same thing that we have available to us. I like that in the chat that William has suggested that it needs some means of shedding water. Absolutely. Jesse has said grooves or flexible zipper of semi-rigid material. I like the semi-rigid part. If you think about trying to walk on that clay-filled road could be hard. Um, how about let's switch gears for a second and maybe think about the shoe for an ankle orthotic. What sort of characteristics would this shoe need? Please use the chat, the Q&A again. Trying to think about what would be, I think for me, one of the things kind of drawing on some of the comments earlier is I would have to go do some research on really what do orthotics look like now. I might have an idea from my past, but of students I went to school with, but I wouldn't know for sure. So, I like William's suggestion, a method of hiding the orthotic without being obvious. So I think many young students are very conscious of what they look like and wanting to be stylish. Thinking about that, I love the sturdy heel support and extra room. You would need room for that as well. So I think those are two great suggestions for what might be the characteristics of the shoe. Jenny, why don't we head on? I think we've done had some great ideas here. I might look ahead at what's our slide 27 with some questions on it just to make sure I didn't forget anything there. Um, I like thinking about what considerations do you need to take into account, and some of you have already done a great job of bringing those to light in the Q&A. And I think these are questions you would want to talk with your students at some point. You don't want to tell them everything up front, but it would be something after they've started to design to make sure they're thinking about these things, or in a maybe a gallery walk as you go around the classroom to think about. Um, it might be that the real problem is that the shoes aren't able to be produced locally. So that question that came in the Q&A about local materials would be important. Jenny, want to keep going?
Sure, let's take a look at some additional examples of past students.
Um, this one is actually a classroom. This one kind of makes me laugh every time I see it. This is out of a classroom in Maryland called The Defender for the Woman Who Needs No Man. And they went on to think about what would make you be able to, like, they're really worried about safety. They've got pepper spray in their shoe. They've got Velcro to make the shoe easy to go on and off. They've got a retractable knife, which of course means they won't be wearing it to school. But some great features there that you can tell they've really thought through their audience. I like that one a lot. But now let's take a minute. Let's go ahead and switch gears. Jenny, I'll turn the floor back over to you to think about some inclusive strategies.
Absolutely. So I know many of you are already in the Miro and maybe peeking down to the frame just below where we were hoping to have you all share some sketches. But you can also access the Miro through this QR code that I'll have on the screen for a little bit. But I think about back in the day when I was a special educator and had curriculum, and I would jot down in the margins or include sticky notes about how to make the lesson more accessible for all of my students, but specifically for my neurodiverse students. students. And so if you're in that Miro, in that area that I'll share my screen in a moment, use those sticky notes. So there are sticky stacks at the top there that you can grab and jot down different ways that you kind of thought of as pathways to increase access and success for neurodiverse learners. So once again, maybe thinking about some of your former students, thinking about specific needs like social skills or communication or behavior and organization. And so let me give you a few moments to do that. And as you're doing that, you'll also be able to see the entire lesson that we just demonstrated with you all from the e4usa curriculum. So let me find, I've lost my, here we go. So hopefully you're looking here in this area. This is a printout of exactly what this hands-on activity looks like for our e4usa educators. And you'll see that I've seeded some of this activity with some of these blue sticky notes here. So feel free to take a look at those and then use the sticky snack. You can hover over it and just grab a sticky note and indicate some other strategies that could be helpful for our neurodiverse learners or potentially all learners, right? In terms of thinking about universal design for learning. If Miro is just not your thing today for various reasons, you can certainly feel free to use the Q&A section. I'll monitor that and I'll transfer your comments over into a sticky note for you. Don't be shy about using those sticky notes. There are infinite sticky notes. There's no paper waste here involved, which is why I love Miro.
And they're really easy. You just grab one and drag.
Mhm.
So if you could repeat the what you're asking them to do, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we have here on these pages essentially the actual hands-on activity as it's presented in the E4USA curriculum. And so I'm encouraging you to include in some of these sticky notes a strategy that could be utilized to make the hands-on activity more inclusive for neurodiverse learners. So let me show an example. And some of their examples are in blue here. So, for example, pre-teaching or previewing the lesson to allow students to have individual thinking time in advance and support that participation. Some of us, including myself, like to have some additional time to process information and think before really engaging in a part with a partner or with a small group. And so thinking about your students in terms of additional preparation time that they might need, maybe it's the night before, maybe it's in the morning as they're getting into homeroom, and that really reduces that cognitive load and allows for them to have ideas already generated in order to allow them to effectively participate when the time comes in that lesson. Other things include that pre-teaching, right, of certain terms that maybe not all of us know in terms of the sneaker world and how sneakers are developed and considerations that are involved. In purple here, I have some examples of what the lesson already includes that is supportive of all learners. So already providing a visual diagram of a labeled shoe and already providing a word bank. And so there's some other ideas that are seated here. Great to see that there are some sticky notes being added, which is fantastic.
And any suggestions for adding a picture?
Yes. Yeah, it's a lot easier when you are on your desktop because if you have it on your desktop computer, your image or saved on your desktop computer, you can just drag and drop it. But if you go into, let me start again, this little add note here, this add icon, and search for images, there are some ways that you can upload images that way. All right. So hopefully that helps. And we'll
And
certainly be, sharing our email. And so if you are really, really passionate about your sketch and want to share it with us, you can share it with us over email as well.
And just pointing that it's a quarter after 5.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have some ideas here. Ooh, we've got a great graphic here. Maybe some inspiration. Fantastic. Some ideas here help them imagine their end users, right? So that human-centered engineering, that empathizing with your stakeholder is really, really key here. And I'll note, this is in Unit 1. So some of our students don't know much about engineering or the engineering design process. And so empathizing with their stakeholder, their end user might not come naturally to them. And so as educators and as I work with educators, you really want them to experience this lesson and kind of reveal for them or have them kind of experience the importance of the engineering design process. And so sometimes as an educator, you're kind of staying mum about some things that they're not considering in this activity and other activities at the beginning of the curriculum.
And Jenny's right. We don't actually teach. We don't actually, we are still doing group work, not teamwork.
Mhm.
And we have not formally introduced the engineering design process, though they're using it without calling it that quite yet. So that's some good. Thank you for that situating of the lesson, Jenny.
Absolutely. And that's the magic of this curriculum. It's one of those things that, it's lovely and incredible to see that light bulb moment come about for students, for E4US students, to understand the importance of the engineering design process.
I like that you've zoomed in there on some a good series of hints, but I particularly like the use an actual shoe that they can pick up. I think
Hmm.
that's good for all learners. Like reach down, take your shoe off, or use one that's been provided if you don't want to use their shoes.
Absolutely. Guide them with some critical questions to think about before starting and share how those questions could enhance their design. Great. I'm going to move around here, see if there are any other sticky notes. Got some others here. All right, we've got another similar activity around the shoe sole design. Thank you for that. I'll share just a few more before we start wrapping things up. So that might involve explicit modeling of a think aloud, for example. So having that teacher model what those conversations should sound like or start with when they're in their smaller groups. Graphic organizers, right, as a way to help organize their thinking as well as their conversations within those groups. Other ideas, because this is a group activity, peer modeling, being thoughtful and strategic about how you're grouping students, and then providing clear expectations. All right, maybe by modeling effective peer responses before the group work begins. I'll also unveil some other ideas as well. And we won't go through them all right now, just in the interest of time, but you all certainly have access to this Miro and can take a look at some of the other ideas and continue to add ideas of your own. So as I'm doing this, you'll see just quite a few here. So that might be, those structured talk moves, those sentence stems to help generate that conversation in those groups.
That's one of my favorites that I think within E4USA we're working on. I've been talking to Alyssa about this a lot about helping students know how to do activities like think, pair, share, and having the right sentence stems that help them know how to brainstorm or to discuss things, and doing that just in general, but doing that explicitly for engineering and using the right language for that is something that we can really, I think, do I know personally I can do a better job on as an educator working with neurodiverse students.
Mhm.
And I'm always trying to think of like, how do we lessen their cognitive load if they don't have the vocabulary, if they, whatever it
Mhm.
is that we can help them out with, because the ideas are there. That's not the.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that presuming competence piece that I think is so, so very critical when we're thinking about our neurodiverse learners. I happen to be a former educator of students with extensive support needs. And so some of these sticky notes here are thinking about their AAC device, right? How are they using that device in order to effectively communicate in their group, as well as other strategies in terms of finding gross motor skills, especially if they're being asked to utilize a pencil or a marker. Are there other assistive technologies that are needed there for students to utilize and really be included meaningfully in this lesson? And with any lesson, right? So thank you so much for engaging in that
Mhm.
activity. I hope that was really helpful. And once again, generating ideas on how to make engineering more inclusive for neurodiverse students and really all students, right? And hopefully it excites you to bring some of these ideas back into your own classroom setting as well. All right, we're going to start wrapping things up here. Let me get to the right slides. And hopefully you're all able to see these slides
Mhm.
here.
Do them now.
Perfect. And I did include some resources and references that informed the strategies that you saw in that Miro, as well as just overall really, really high quality resources that can be helpful for you all. But as we wrap up, we want to hopefully encourage you and really excite you about learning more about E4USA. And so we encourage you to utilize this form, which I believe will be coming to you in the Zoom chat. Or you can access the form via this QR code to learn more about E4USA, as I mentioned, as well as access the activity materials. So we hope that this is something that you might take with you back to the classroom with your students, and that will encourage you to reach out to us and learn more about E4USA.
Can I ask a question? Oh.
Yes.
Sure.
While we were waiting for everybody, Jenny,
Mhm.
you shared that there was an educator that you really
Mhm.
have
Yes.
a great experience. So I would love to hear about that. We have like just a couple minutes. And just you were saying how you really appreciate how they navigated projects.
Absolutely. I think the work of an educator and certainly a special educator is no small feat, right? And so we have an incredible E4USA teacher who has been with us for quite a number of years, working at a school that specifically serves students with disabilities. And he, as an educator, is so intentional about teaching this curriculum but also weaving in those IEP goals and objectives for students. And so how he teaches E4USA, of course, because of his population, is very, very different. And it is very, very thoughtful in terms of thinking about the strengths, the interest, and the needs of each of his students in his classroom. And in terms of, their strengths and interest and really leveraging that in addition to teaching the E4USA curriculum, one of their design projects was for the classroom to use their fellow peers of students with disabilities as the stakeholders, and they developed a huge globe that included different sections that would address the sensory appetite of some of the students. So there might be something squishy or sticky, something prickly. So this globe was something massive, but also really
Oh,
responsive
wow.
to their fellow peers. And that's that empathy in engineering, but it's something that they probably would utilize themselves, but also to see their own fellow classmates utilize that is one of my by far favorite
Oh, that's
stories.
really cool. Thank you.
And so it's once again going back to the title of this presentation. Really, if we would say engineering really belongs to everyone, and there are so many unique pathways, and I think about it like a highway, right? Like a pathways and on ramps to accessing engineering education in a really meaningful way. So. I hope that inspires all of you to want to learn more about E4USA. We are a little biased, but we love E4USA. And I'm biased in terms of the professional learning of our educators. So, Stacy, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, just if you are interested in learning more, we hope you'll talk now to your administration. Maybe you already have an engineering class on the books and you would like to swap out curriculum. We would love for you to do that. Or maybe you have a longer of an on-ramp and want to start talking to your admin about the 27-28 year. You can sign up now for professional development that would begin in the summer, as Jenny was explaining. It's a fun year-round first year with the program, and we hope you'll really want to dive into that with us. I do want to mention a few dates on the next slide. Our E4USA Plus Making and also our E4USA Legacy kick off with online PD the week of July 20 through 24. And then if you're interested in our E4USA Plus programming class, that is the week prior to that. And I want to be sure to make that you know that we have lots of scholarships available. The first year is the most cost intensive one of being an E4USA educator. But we have specific to those of you who might be from Massachusetts, knowing that where Tufts is located. We have some actually Analog Devices is sponsoring scholarships for teachers, and so we would love to get some of our Massachusetts educators today involved and taking advantage of scholarship for that. But if you're not from Massachusetts, and I know at least a couple participants were from other states, we have other funds, several different kinds of scholarships, including one from the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation that focuses in on Title I schools. So lots of opportunity. Do not let cost be your barrier for participation. So last slide, please, Jenny. I know that Jenny and I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for learning about E4USA. I hope that you will reach out and get the activities from us and you can use that activity and try it out with your students. And I hope it's been a wonderful and thoughtful basis for you to think about how to make engineering truly for us all, as we like to say in E4USA, and really make sure that when you have those neurodiverse students in your classroom, no matter what that neurodiversity is, that you're thinking about ways to make them feel as a part of engineering and to build their engineering identity as much as you do any student there. So thank you for everything. Thank you, Alyssa, Meredith, Lynn, for hosting us today.
Thank you so much. This is sort of it's been exciting to have like our partners in this, not only in thoughts, but also in this webinar. And so Lynn put it in the chat, but slides and a recording will be available. We'll also notify the raffle winner. There we had this is part of a series of webinars. So Lynn put in the chat a link to the next webinars you can sign up. You can also contact us if you are an educator who is thinking about how to do engineering with neurodiverse students. I would love, for you to contact either E4USA or both or me. You can reach me through the CEO website, the email. Just because not that we have all the answers, but it's a conversation, and the more people who are talking about it, the more, the more work we can do. Excellent. Well, thank you so, so much. It was really interesting hearing more about this.
Thank you.